This past week, the world's most wanted terrorist wound up dead, but Joe Biden refusing to give the president any credit.
It got pulled off, I think, in spite of his actions. The president should stay in his lane and listen to the military.
But our next guest argues if Biden was president, al-Baghdadi could still be alive. Fox News contributor Marc Thiessen served as chief speechwriter to President George W. Bush. He joins us from our nation's capital. We heard from
Steve.
Good to have you. We just heard from the former vice president. The president should stay in his lane, and this was not it.
Well, first of all, Biden is wrong. Donald Trump deserves enormous credit for the Baghdadi operation. This was a very high-risk mission. They had to fly hundreds of miles into al-Qaeda-controlled territory. The helicopters could have been shot down. Any number of things could have gone horribly wrong, and Donald Trump would have gotten the blame. And if you think back to what the Desert One disaster did to Jimmy Carter's presidency, a president takes a big risk when they order an operation like this, so he deserves the credit. But it's fair to ask, what would Joe Biden have done if he were president of the United States? And we have a little bit of an inkling because he opposed the raid that got Osama bin Laden.
I am so glad you mentioned that because we have got that flashback soundbite. Here's the vice president who wants to be in commander-in-chief saying, don't go to Barack Obama.
Yep.
We had to make a decision. The president, he went around the table with all the senior people, including the chiefs of staff. And he said, I have to make this decision. What is your opinion? It got to me and he said, Joe, what do you think? And I said, I didn't know we had so many economists around the table. I said, we owe the man a direct answer. Mr. President, my suggestion is don't go. We have to do two more things to see if he's there.
Well, they did go, and Barack Obama was praised. It was completely bipartisan, which is something that this president did not wind up with regarding al-Baghdadi.
Sure. No, I mean, and by the way, Joe Biden was the only person around that table who opposed the bin Laden operation. Everybody in President Obama's national security team. So he's the only one who had the poor judgment to say don't go. So you've got the guy who opposed the bin Laden operation criticizing the guy who authorized the Baghdadi operation, which makes very little sense. But the other thing he's criticizing him for, Steve, is his decision to withdraw from Syria. And he's right. Trump shouldn't be withdrawing from Syria. But Joe Biden is the guy who led the effort to withdraw all of our troops from Iraq against the advice of commanders and he said it was the proudest moment of his life. That's what led to the rise of ISIS in the first place. There would have been no need for a Baghdadi mission if it hadn't been for Joe Biden withdrawing all of our troops in 2011.
And he wants to be commander-in-chief, and he's running for president.
Amen.
All right. Marc, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks. Good to be with you.
Okay.